The camera sat in a velvet-lined box for 63 years. No one knew it existed. Not the royal archivists. Not the historians who cataloged every teacup and crown jewel. The small Leica camera, scratched and heavy in the hand, had been hidden inside a locked trunk in the basement of Clarence's house, when the lock finally broke during a routine inventory in March 2023. The archivist who found it didn't think much of it at first, until she pressed the button and heard the film. Advanced, there was still film inside, undeveloped, untouched. Since the day it was loaded, the camera had belonged to Queen Elizabeth herself. Her initials were engraved on the back, barely visible beneath decades of tarnish. But what shocked everyone was the date stamped on the film canister inside. August 1997. 1 month before Princess Diana died, the palace kept the discovery quiet. They brought in a specialist from the Royal Photographic Society, a man who had restored images from World War I. He worked alone in a dark room for 3 days. When he emerged, his hands were shaking. The photographs showed something no one expected. Something that would change everything people thought they knew about the royal family. Before we continue with this story, if you love deep emotional true stories like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what happens next. The first image was blurry. A garden party at Balmoral Castle. Women in summer dresses, men in linen suits. The Queen herself stood near a rosebush, caught mid-laugh. Nothing unusual. The second photo showed Prince Charles speaking with a group of advisors. Still normal. But the third photograph made the specialist pause. It was taken through a window. The angle suggested the Queen had been standing outside, looking in. The image showed a private sitting room. 2 people were inside. One was a senior palace aide, a man named Richard Calloway. He had worked for the royal family for over 20 years, trusted, respected, close to everyone. The other person was harder to see. The photo was slightly out of focus, but the body language was clear. They were leaning close. Papers were spread across a table between them. Calloway was pointing at something. The other person was nodding. That other person was a journalist, not just any journalist. Martin Graves. He worked for one of Britain's most aggressive tabloids. He was known for stories that cut deep. Stories that revealed secrets the palace wanted buried. Why would a trusted palace aide be meeting secretly with a tabloid journalist? And why would the Queen photograph it? The specialist made copies of every image and locked the originals in a safe. He didn't sleep that night. The next morning, he brought the photographs to Sir Malcolm Trent, the Queen's private secretary at the time. Trent's face went pale as he looked through them. "Where did you find these?" he whispered. "Clarence's house basement, hidden." The camera was the Queen's. Trent sat down heavily. He stared at the photo of Calloway and the journalist for a long time. Finally, he spoke. All those years she knew. Knew what? Trent looked up. His eyes were haunted. Who was feeding Diana's secrets to the press? Who was turning the palace against her? Who betrayed her trust when she needed protection the most? No. The room went silent, except for the ticking of an old clock on the wall. And it wasn't who everyone thought it was, Trent continued. The real betrayal was much closer to home. Much closer to William. The specialist felt his chest tighten. "What do you mean closer to William?" Trent pulled out another photograph from the stack. This one showed a different angle of the same room. In the background, barely visible in the doorway, was another figure. Someone watching the meeting between Calloway and the journalist. Someone who should never have been there. Hand trembled as he held the photograph up to the light.
"This
changes everything we thought we knew about what happened in 1997, he said quietly. And if this gets out, it will destroy someone William has trusted his entire life. Asterisk, the figure in the doorway wore a dark suit. The photograph was grainy, but the silhouette was unmistakable. Tall, broad-shouldered, standing perfectly still. As if listening, Trent traced his finger along the edge of the photo. "Do you recognize him?" he asked the specialist. The specialist squinted. Then his breath caught. "That's Gerald Finch," he said. "William's private secretary. He's been with William since 2005. Before that," Trent said slowly, He worked for the Queen. He was a junior aide in 1997, 24 years old. Ambitious, smart, always. In the right place, at the right time. The specialist set down his magnifying glass. Are you saying Finch was part of this? Part of whatever Calloway was doing? I'm saying the Queen photographed him there for a reason. She documented this meeting. She kept this camera hidden for decades. She never told anyone why. Trent walked to the window. Outside, the palace gardens stretched green and perfect under gray London skies. Tourists gathered at the gates, taking photos, hoping for a glimpse of royalty. They had no idea what secrets lived inside these walls. The Queen never did anything without purpose, Trent continued. If she hid this camera, she was protecting someone, or waiting for the right moment to expose something. The specialist felt a chill run down his spine. Protecting who? William, Trent said simply. She was always protecting William. The photographs were locked away again, but Trent couldn't stop thinking about them. He began pulling old files from the palace archives. Security logs from 1997, staff schedules, phone records. He worked late into the night, alone in his office, surrounded by decades of carefully maintained secrets. What he found made him sick. In August 1997, the same month the photographs were taken, there had been a leak. A devastating leak. Private details about Diana's personal life had appeared in the tabloids. Her phone conversations, her struggles with the palace, her fears about Charles, things only a handful of people knew. The palace had launched an investigation. They questioned everyone. Staff members were interrogated. Phone lines were checked, but they never found the source. The investigation file was still in the archives. Trent opened it with trembling hands. He read through pages of interviews, denials, accusations. Then he found something that made his blood run cold. Gerald Finch had been interviewed. He'd been questioned because he'd had access to Diana's schedule. He'd been cleared because he was young, loyal, and had no apparent connection to the press. The investigator's notes said, Finch appears trustworthy and genuinely shocked by the leak. No cause for concern, but Trent kept reading. At the bottom of the file, there was a handwritten note. It wasn't dated. It wasn't signed. But the handwriting was familiar. He'd seen it on thousands of documents over the years. It was the Queen's handwriting. The note said, Watch Finch, trust, but verify. He knows more than he says. Trent sat back in his chair. His heart pounded. The Queen had suspected Finch all along. She'd known. Or at least she'd had doubts. But she'd never acted on them. She'd kept silent. She'd watched him rise through the ranks. She'd allowed him to become William's most trusted advisor. Why? The answer hit Trent like a fist to the chest. She'd been waiting. Waiting for proof. Waiting for the right moment. And she'd documented everything with that camera, knowing someday someone would find it. But she died before she could tell anyone. Before she could finish what she'd started. Now that duty had fallen to Trent, he picked up the phone. He dialed a number he rarely called. It rang 3 times before someone answered. This is Trent, he said quietly. I need to speak with Prince William, privately. It's about his mother. There was a long pause on the other end. Sir Malcolm, the prince is in Scotland. He's with his family. Can this wait? No, Trent said firmly. It's waited long enough. 26 years too long. Another pause. What should I tell him this is regarding? Trent looked at the photograph on his desk. The image of Gerald Finch standing in that doorway, listening, watching, waiting. Tell him it's about who really betrayed Diana, and tell him the answer is closer than he thinks. The line went silent for a moment. Then, I'll arrange a call within the hour. Trent hung up. He stood and walked to the window again. The tourists were still there, still smiling, still believing in the fairy tale of kings and queens, princes and princesses. They didn't know the truth, but William was about to learn it. And when he did, nothing would ever be the same. Asterisk, the phone call came at 9:45 that night. William's voice was steady but tense. "Malcolm, this better be important. Catherine and I were just putting the children to bed."
How?
Trent closed his office door. He made sure it was locked. "Your Majesty, I need you to listen very carefully. What I'm about to tell you will be difficult to hear." There was silence on the other end. "Then go on." Trent explained everything. The camera, the photographs, the meeting between Calloway and the journalist, the figure in the doorway. Gerald Finch. William said nothing for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was different, harder. Asterisk, "You're telling me that, Finch? The man who's been by my side for nearly 20 years was involved in leaking information about my mother. I'm saying your grandmother suspected him. She documented evidence, and she kept it hidden until now. Why didn't she tell me? I don't know. Perhaps she wanted to be certain. Perhaps she was protecting you from the truth until you were ready. Or perhaps she ran out of time." William's breathing was audible through the phone. "Where is Finch now?"
"In London."
"He's scheduled to meet with you next Tuesday for your weekly briefing. Cancel it. Sir, if we cancel suddenly, he might suspect something. We need to be careful. If he realizes we know, he could destroy evidence or disappear." William was quiet again. Trent could imagine him pacing the way he always did when he was thinking through a problem. "What do you need from me?" William asked finally. "I need to investigate further. Quietly. I need access to old communication records, staff files, security footage, if any still exists. And I need you to act normal around Finch. Don't let him know anything has changed. You want me to smile at the man who might have destroyed my mother's life?" The pain in William's voice was raw. "I want you to get justice for her," Trent said gently. "The right way. The thorough way. If we move too quickly, we might miss something. We might never know the full truth." William exhaled slowly. "How long do you need?" "A week, maybe less. You have 5 days. After that, I'm confronting him. Evidence or not." The line went dead. Trent began his investigation the next morning. He started with Richard Calloway, the Palisade from the photograph. Calloway had died in 2003, but Trent tracked down his widow. She lived in a small cottage in Cornwall, surrounded by roses and memories. She invited Trent inside. She made tea. She seemed lonely, grateful for the company. "Your husband worked for the royal family for many years," Trent began carefully. "He loved that job," she said, smiling. "He gave everything to it? Did he ever talk about his work? About the family?" Her smile faded slightly. "Richard was very loyal. He never shared secrets, even with me." Trent pulled out a photograph. Not the one from the camera, but a similar one from the palace archives. It showed Calloway at a staff function in 1997. "Do you recognize anyone else in this photo?" She put on her reading glasses. She studied the image. Then she pointed. "That's Martin Graves, the journalist. Richard knew him from university. They were old friends." Trent's pulse quickened. "Did they stay in touch?" "Oh, yes. Martin would come to dinner sometimes. He was quite charming. Always brought wine. Though Richard stopped inviting him after Diana died. Said it wasn't appropriate anymore. Said things had gotten too complicated." "Did Richard ever mention someone named Gerald Finch?" Her expression changed. Something flickered in her eyes. "Fear? Guilt? Why are you asking about Gerald?" "Please, Mrs. Calloway. It's important." She set down her teacup. Her hands were shaking. "Richard made me promise never to talk about this. He said it could ruin lives. Richard is gone, and the lives in question have already been affected. I need to know the truth." She stared at Trent for a long moment. Then she stood and walked to a bookshelf. She pulled out an old shoebox from behind a row of novels. Inside were letters, dozens of them. Richard kept these hidden. He said they were insurance, in case anyone ever tried to blame him for what happened. Trent opened the first letter. It was dated July 1997. It was from Gerald Finch to Richard Calloway. The handwriting was neat, precise. The letter detailed Diana's schedule for the following week. her private appointments, her phone calls, even the names of people she was seeing in secret. The second letter contained more information. Quotes from conversations Diana had with palace staff, details about her relationship with Charles, private fears she'd shared with only a few trusted people. There were 15 letters in total, all from Finch to Calloway, all containing information that later appeared in tabloid stories. Trent felt sick. "Your husband didn't leak the information," he said quietly. "He was just the middleman. Finch was feeding him everything, and Calloway was passing it to his friend, the journalist." Mrs. Calloway wiped her eyes. "Richard regretted it. He told me near the end when he was dying. He said they'd been paid well at first, but after Diana died, he couldn't live with the guilt. He tried to cut ties. But Gerald threatened him. Said if Richard talked, he'd make sure Richard lost everything. So he kept silent till the very end. He wrote everything down. He told me to keep these letters safe. He said someday someone might need them." Trent gathered the letters carefully. "May I take these?" She nodded. "Please," she whispered. "Make sure Diana gets justice." Richard would have wanted that. Trent left Cornwall with the letters locked in a briefcase. His hands gripped the steering wheel tightly as he drove back to London. The truth was worse than he'd imagined. Gerald Finch hadn't just leaked information. He'd systematically betrayed Diana's trust, sold her secrets, and profited from her pain. And now he stood beside William, trusted and respected. With access to everything, Trent brought the letters directly to William. They met in a private room at Kensington Palace. No staff, no security nearby. Just the two of them and the weight of 26 years of lies. William read each letter slowly. His jaw tightened. His knuckles went white. When he finished, he set them down carefully, as if they might shatter. "He was 24 years old," William said quietly. "Just a few years older than I was when my mother died. He sat in meetings with her. She probably smiled at him. Trusted him, yes, and he sold her out for money. It appears so." William stood and walked to the window. Outside, the gardens were bathed in afternoon sunlight. Children's voices drifted up from somewhere nearby. Normal life. Safe life. "I brought him into my inner circle," William said. "After my grandmother died, I relied on him. I trusted his advice. He helped me make decisions about my children's security. About Catherine's safety, the implications hung heavy in the air. What else has he had access to?" Trent asked gently. William turned. His face was pale. "Everything. He knows our schedules, our private travel plans, our security protocols. He knows where my children go to school. He knows which routes we take, which houses we visit. Has anything unusual happened recently? Any leaks? Any security concerns?" William thought for a moment. Then his expression changed. There was a photographer at George's football match. It was supposed to be a private school event. Parents only. But somehow a tabloid photographer got inside. Got photos of George, Charlotte, even Louis. Very close photos. Too close. Did Finch know about the match? He arranged our security for it. The room fell silent. Trent pulled out another document. This one was new. He'd retrieved it from Palace financial records just that morning. "I found something else. Finch has been receiving payments. Large payments. They come through a consulting firm, but I traced it back. The money originates from a media company. The same company that owns 3 major tabloids." William took the document. His hands trembled. He's still doing it. After all these years, he's still selling information about my family. It appears so. William crumpled the paper in his fist. "I want him arrested. Now, today. Your Majesty, we need to be careful. If we move against him directly, he could claim he's being persecuted. He could go public. He could sell more stories, twist the narrative. We need ironclad proof. You have letters? You have financial records. You have my grandmother's photographs. We have evidence of past crimes. But for current charges, we need more. We need proof of recent activity. something undeniable. William paced the room. His training as a future king warred with his rage as a son and father. "What do you suggest?" he asked finally. Trent had been thinking about this since Cornwall. "We set a trap. We give Finch information. Something false but believable. Something he'd want to sell. Then we watch to see if it appears in the press. Asterisk, you want to use my family as bait? I want to use fictional information as bait. Something that sounds real but isn't. If it appears in print, we'll know it came from him, and we'll have current prosecutable evidence." William considered this. His face was tight with controlled anger. Something personal. Something valuable. Perhaps a fake medical appointment for one of the children, or a planned private vacation. Something only your inner circle would know. And if he takes the bait, we'll have him. Not just for what he did to your mother, but for what he's doing now. We can turn everything over to the police. Press charges. Make sure he never works in royal service again. William nodded slowly. "But Malcolm?" "Yes. Make it about me, not the children. Not Catherine. If we're using bait, I'll be the bait, not my family." Trent felt a surge of respect for the man before him. Understood. Asterisk, they spent the next hour crafting the trap. They created a fake medical report. It suggested William had a minor health issue, nothing serious but requiring regular monitoring. It was the kind of story tabloids loved. Worry about a royal's health. Speculation. Drama. Trent prepared a briefing document. He made it look authentic. Official letterhead. Doctor's signatures. Appointment dates. The next morning, William had his scheduled meeting with Finch. Finch arrived exactly on time. He wore an expensive suit. His smile was warm and professional. He had no idea his world was about to collapse. Asterisk, Your Majesty, good morning. I trust you had a pleasant weekend? William forced himself to smile back. Quite pleasant, thank you, Gerald. Shall we begin? They sat at the conference table. William went through the usual items. Security updates. Schedule confirmations. Public appearances. Then, casually, he slid the fake medical report across the table. One more thing. This is confidential. I need you to arrange for increased security during these appointments. Very discreet. No press. No leaks. Finch picked up the document. His eyes scanned it quickly. His expression showed concern. Of course, sir. Is everything all right? Just routine. But I'd prefer to keep it private. You understand? Absolutely. You have my word. Finch folded the document and placed it in his briefcase. His hands were steady. His face showed nothing but loyalty and concern. He was good at this. 26 years of practice. William watched him leave. He waited until the door closed. Then he picked up his phone and called Trent. Des. He took it. Now we wait, Trent replied. If I'm right, this will appear in the papers within 48 hours. William set down the phone. He looked at his hands. They were shaking. Somewhere in this palace, his grandmother had once held a camera. She'd pointed it at the truth. She'd captured betrayal on film. She'd kept it secret. Waiting for the right moment. That moment had finally come. Asterisk 24 hours passed. Trent barely slept. He monitored every major tabloid website, every gossip column, every royal focus publication. Nothing appeared. Maybe they were wrong. Maybe Finch had changed. Maybe the payments were for something else. Then, at 6:30 in the morning, on the second day, his phone buzzed. The Daily Express website had just published a breaking story. The headline read, Prince William's secret health battle. Palace sources reveal regular medical monitoring. Trent's hands went cold. The article contained details from the fake report, the appointments, the doctors' names, even the specific dates, word for word. Detail for detail. It could have only come from one source. Trent called William immediately. It's him. The story just went live. William's voice was quiet but firm. Send me the link. Trent forwarded it. He heard William breathing on the other end as he read. He didn't even wait 48 hours, William said. He couldn't help himself. Greed, Trent replied. Or arrogance. Maybe both. What now? Now we call the police. We have everything we need. The fake document we gave him, the published article that matches it, the financial records showing payments from the media company, the historical evidence from your grandmother's photographs and Calloway's letters. It's over. William was silent for a moment. I want to confront him first, face to face. I need to look him in the eye. Your Majesty, I don't think that's wise. I don't care about wise. I care about my mother. I care about the truth. I care about looking at the man who betrayed her and telling him I know exactly what he did. Trent knew better than to argue when William used that tone. Then we do it properly. With witnesses, with legal representation present, so nothing he says can be twisted later. Agreed. Set it up for this afternoon. The meeting was arranged for 3 o'clock at Buckingham Palace. A formal office. 2 lawyers present. A recording device on the table, operating legally with everyone's knowledge. Finch arrived confused. He'd been summoned urgently. No explanation given. When he entered and saw the lawyers, his expression shifted. Just for a moment. A flicker of fear. Your Majesty, what's this about? He asked, his voice still smooth. William sat behind the desk. His posture was rigid. His face was a mask of controlled fury. Please sit down, Gerald. Finch sat. He placed his hands on his lap. His fingers were steady, but his jaw was tight. William slid a copy of the Daily Express article across the desk. Interesting story, don't you think? Finch glanced at it. His face showed concern. Sir, I just saw this online. I was about to call you. This is a serious security breach. We need to find out who leaked this information. We already know who leaked it. Finch blinked. I'm sorry. William leaned forward. The information in that article came from a document I gave you 2 days ago. Only you had access to it. The doctors mentioned don't exist. The appointments were never scheduled. The entire thing was fabricated. The color drained from Finch's face. Your Majesty, I don't understand. Are you suggesting I'm not suggesting anything. I'm stating a fact. You took that document and sold it to the press within 24 hours, just like you've been doing for 26 years. Finch's mouth opened, closed. He looked at the lawyers. Back at William. This is absurd. I would never. William opened a folder. He pulled out the letters from Calloway's widow. One by one, he laid them on the desk. These are letters you wrote to Richard Calloway in 1997. They contain detailed information about my mother. Information that appeared in tabloids days later. Information that only palace insiders knew. Finch stared at the letters. His breathing grew shallow. Where did you get those? From someone who kept them as insurance. Someone who knew exactly what you were doing. William pulled out another document. The financial records. You've been receiving payments from a media company for years. Payments that coincide with major stories about my family, about my mother, about my children. Those payments are for consulting work, completely legitimate. Then you won't mind if we turn all of this over to the police? Let them investigate these legitimate consulting arrangements. Finch's composure cracked. His hands gripped the armrests of his chair. You don't understand. It wasn't supposed to hurt anyone. It was just information. Just schedules and appointments. Nothing dangerous? Nothing dangerous? William's voice rose. You leaked my mother's private conversations, her fears, her struggles. You helped turn the press against her. You made her life hell. And when she died, you just moved on. You kept doing it. To me, to my wife. To my children, I never meant for anyone to get hurt, but they did. William's voice broke slightly. My mother lived her final years hounded by press who knew her every move, who knew her secrets, who printed lies mixed with truth until no one knew what to believe. And you helped make that happen. Finch's face crumpled. For the first time, he looked old, tired, guilty. I needed money. My mother was sick. I had debts. Calloway approached me, said it was harmless, said the press would get the information anyway, said I might as well get paid for it. And you believed that? I wanted to believe it. William stood. He walked to the window. Outside, the palace grounds stretched vast and beautiful. His children played somewhere out there, safe, protected. For now, my grandmother knew, William said quietly. She suspected you from the beginning. She documented it. She kept evidence. She watched you for years. Do you know why she never exposed you? Finch shook his head. Because she was giving you a chance to stop. To change. To become the person she hoped you could be. William turned. But you never did. You just got better at hiding it. Finch lowered his head. His shoulders shook. Sorry. I know that means nothing now, but I'm sorry. William returned to the desk. He pressed a button. 2 security officers entered. Gerald Finch, you're being detained pending a police investigation. These officers will escort you out. You're no longer welcome in any royal residence. Your security clearances are revoked immediately. Finch stood slowly. The officers moved to either side of him. What will happen to me? He asked quietly. William's face was stone. Justice. Finally. 3 months later, Gerald Finch stood in court. The charges were extensive. Breach of confidentiality, conspiracy, fraud. The prosecution had everything. The letters, the financial records, the fake medical report that proved current criminal activity. Even the Queen's photographs entered as historical evidence. The trial lasted 6 weeks. Witnesses testified. Journalists were questioned. The media company that had paid Finch for years tried to distance itself, claiming they'd had no idea the information was stolen. No one believed them. On a cold November morning, the verdict came, guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced him to 8 years in prison. The courtroom was silent as Finch was led away. His head was bowed. His expensive suit looked wrong on him now. William didn't attend the trial. He'd said what he needed to say in that confrontation at the palace. But Catherine sat in the gallery for the verdict. When it was read, she closed her eyes briefly. Then she left without speaking to anyone. That evening, William visited Diana's grave. He stood alone as the sun set. The memorial was quiet except for wind in the trees. He carried a folder with him. Inside were the photographs from his grandmother's camera. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "I wish you could have known. I wish Granny could have told you she was watching. She was protecting me. She was gathering proof. She just ran out of time." He set the folder down gently. Finch is gone now. He can't hurt anyone else. And the truth is finally out there. People know what happened. They know you weren't paranoid. They know the betrayal was real. The wind picked up. Leaves skittered across the path. I'm teaching George about trust now. About loyalty. About how some people will pretend to care while they're really using you. It's a hard lesson, but necessary. He wiped his eyes. I miss you every day. Charlotte looks like you when she laughs. George has your stubbornness. Louis has your kindness. They would have loved you. You would have loved them. He stayed until the stars came out. Then he walked back to his car. The folder remained behind, tucked beside flowers someone else had left. Back at Kensington Palace, William found Catherine in the sitting room. She was reading to Charlotte. The scene was peaceful, normal, safe. How was it? Catherine asked softly when Charlotte fell asleep. Necessary, William replied. He sat beside her. I told her about Finch, about Granny, about the photographs. Do you think she knows? I hope so. Catherine took his hand. Your grandmother was remarkable. To document everything, to keep it hidden, to trust that eventually someone would find it and understand. She taught me that patience and evidence are more powerful than rage and accusations. If I'd confronted Finch years ago without proof, he would have denied everything. He might have gotten away with it. but because she waited. Because she documented. Justice actually happened. William nodded. They sat in silence for a while, listening to Charlotte's gentle breathing. "I've been thinking," Catherine said eventually, "about trust, about security. We need to change how we operate." "I know. I've already spoken with Trent. We're implementing new protocols. Smaller inner circle. More verification. Regular audits of who has access to what information. It shouldn't have to be this way." "No, but it's the world we live in." The world she lived in, too. The next morning, William held a private meeting with his closest staff. Only 6 people were present. All had been thoroughly vetted. All had proven their loyalty beyond doubt. "What happened with Gerald Finch can never happen again," William told them. "My grandmother kept a secret for 26 years to protect this family and expose a traitor. I won't let her effort be wasted." He outlined the new security measures, the new protocols, the new standards for anyone who worked in royal service. Trust has to be earned every day, not just given because of position or tenure. "My mother trusted the wrong people. She paid a terrible price. My children will not." One of the staff members, an older woman who'd served the Queen, raised her hand. "Your Majesty, if I may, your grandmother would be very proud of you. She told me once that you had your mother's heart but your father's head. She meant it as the highest compliment." William's eyes grew wet. "Thank you." That afternoon, he received a letter. It was from Mrs. Calloway, Richard's widow. She'd followed the trial closely. She wrote, "Your Majesty, I wanted you to know that Richard, despite his mistakes, regretted every moment of what he did. He died carrying that guilt, but he made sure the truth survived him. I hope that Diana knows justice has finally come. I hope she's at peace. And I hope you and your beautiful family stay safe. The world needs good people like you. Thank you for not giving up on the truth, even when it took decades to surface." William folded the letter carefully. He placed it in a drawer with the photographs from his grandmother's camera. One day when George was older, William would show him these things. He would tell him the full story. About betrayal and loyalty. About patience and justice. About a queen who documented truth in secret and a mother who deserved better. But for now, there were children to raise, a family to protect, a future to build. William walked to the window. Outside, George and Charlotte were playing in the garden. Louis toddled after them, laughing. Catherine sat on a bench nearby, reading, looking up occasionally to make sure they were safe. This was what mattered. This simple, beautiful moment. This peace that his mother never got to fully experience. This security that his grandmother had fought silently to ensure. The camera that had stayed hidden for 63 years had finally revealed its secrets. The truth had emerged. Justice had come. And somewhere, William hoped his mother and grandmother were watching. Together, finally at peace. He picked up his own phone and took a photograph of his children playing. Just a simple moment. Just a memory preserved. Because some things were worth remembering. Worth protecting, worth fighting for, no matter how long it took. The story of Queen Elizabeth's forgotten camera had changed everything. It had exposed a traitor who'd lived among them for decades. It had brought closure to wounds that had festered for years. It had reminded everyone that truth, no matter how long buried, eventually finds its way to light. And most importantly, it had protected the future. William's children would grow up in a palace that learned from its past. That honored Diana's memory not just with flowers and memorials, but with real, lasting change. The camera sat now in the royal archives, preserved alongside the photographs it had captured. A reminder, a lesson, a promise. Trust, but verify. Document, but wait for the right moment. Protect those you love with patience, evidence, and unwavering determination. These were the lessons of queens and mothers. The lessons of sacrifice and secrets. The lessons that would shape a new generation of royals. And somewhere in that carefully preserved camera, if you looked closely at the final photograph on the roll, you could see something the specialists had almost missed. In the corner of that last image, barely visible, was a reflection in a window. The reflection showed the queen herself, elderly but steady, looking directly into the glass. Her expression was determined, almost defiant, as if she was saying, "I see you, I know. And one day, everyone will know." That day had finally come.